The first sound you hear isn't a gunshot, but the static of an archival audio tape from the Oval Office. A voice rings out, warm but trembling, carrying the distinct Boston accent of John F. Kennedy. The speech echoes in the silent space. My fellow Americans, tonight, as President of the United States, I am forced to make the most devastating decision in human history. Our strategic forces have been ordered. The tape is abruptly cut off by the piercing wail of air raid sirens, screaming bone-chillingly, accompanied by the image of a massive fireball swallowing the skyline. That is the scenario of 1965. But to understand how the world reached that absolute end, we must travel back in time to exactly noon on November 22, 1963. Dallas, Texas. Dealey Plaza is bathed in blinding sunlight. The open-top Lincoln Continental slowly rolls through the cheering crowd. Governor John Connally sits in the front, President Kennedy and First Lady Jackie smile and wave. Suddenly, a deafening crack tears through the air. A flock of birds startles into the sky from the roof of the Texas School Book Depository. But in this timeline, destiny has deviated by 1/1000th of a millimeter. The fatal bullet from Lee Harvey Oswald is deflected by a sudden gust of wind, grazing JFK's ear and slamming straight into the leather cushion of the back seat. Blood splatters from the scratch, Jackie's heart-wrenching scream rings out, and Secret Service agent Clint Hill lunges forward to shield them. The car accelerates, escaping to Parkland Hospital. John F. Kennedy survives. America breathes a sigh of relief, thanking God for sparing their charismatic president. But they have no idea that the moment JFK steps out of the hospital with a white bandage on his head is also the exact moment the countdown clock to doomsday is officially triggered. To understand the terrifying downward spiral to come, we must strip away a secret the White House has hidden for decades: the true physical and mental health of JFK. The young president, the symbol of American vitality, was actually a patient carrying numerous chronic illnesses. Addison's disease ravaged his immune system, and chronic back pain forced him to wear a steel corset every day. However, the most terrifying thing wasn't the diseases themselves, but the treatment. To maintain the image of an energetic commander-in-chief, JFK was entirely dependent on Dr. Max Jacobson, known among the Washington elite by his slang name, Dr. Feelgood. Every day, Dr. Feelgood injected a horrifying medical cocktail directly into the president's bloodstream. Its ingredients? A massive dose of amphetamines, or simply put, a mild form of meth, mixed with steroids, animal hormones, and high-dose painkillers. In the actual timeline, this drug sometimes made JFK restless and tense. But imagine, after surviving a bloody assassination attempt in broad daylight, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, begins to eat away at the president's mind. To cope with the pain and the constant paranoia that someone is hunting him, the amphetamine dosage is doubled. The side effects of long-term amphetamine abuse are extreme paranoia, suspiciousness, and an inability to control emotions. JFK is no longer the calm politician who handled the Cuban Missile Crisis. He is now a wounded tiger, locked in the Oval Office, his sharp eyes darting around, no longer trusting anyone but his own family. This siege mentality is the first catalyst that pushes the world into the flames of World War. When the president spirals into panic and paranoia, true power begins to concentrate in the hands of his younger brother, who is also the Attorney General of the United States, Robert F. Kennedy, or Bobby. Bobby was already known as a political attack dog, a ruthless, uncompromising figure ready to destroy anyone who stood in the Kennedy family's way. Seeing his brother nearly lose his life, Bobby's fury knows no bounds. He is absolutely convinced that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. In Bobby's eyes, this is a massive coup conspiracy, and the masterminds are roaming free right in the heart of Washington. Bobby's targets? The CIA elite, the mafia bosses he had previously cornered, and even the hawkish generals in the Pentagon. Under Bobby's direction, the Department of Justice quickly transforms into a massive purging machine. He strips the CIA of its investigative powers and grants full authority to the FBI, despite his deep-seated feud with Director J. Edgar Hoover. Midnight raids, closed-door hearings, dozens of high-ranking Central Intelligence Agency officials fired or imprisoned on treason charges. America enters an unprecedented era of a mini-police state, where the Constitution is bent in the name of national security and protecting the president's life. However, this ruthless action by Bobby brings about a fatal consequence. It completely isolates the White House from the country's intelligence and military apparatus. The rift between JFK and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS, which was already terrible since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, now deepens into an unfillable black hole. Leading the opposition is Air Force General Curtis LeMay, nicknamed Iron Ass, a man who worships the doctrine of total war. LeMay once pointed right at Kennedy's face and called his diplomatic policies cowardly appeasement. Now, seeing the Kennedy brothers tearing apart the national security apparatus, LeMay and the Pentagon generals decide they cannot sit idle. They view JFK as a genuine national security threat, a drug-addicted, paranoid man destroying America from within. Simultaneously, another ticking time bomb named Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, is counting down. In reality, JFK's death propelled LBJ into the presidency. But now, LBJ is just a vice president standing on the brink of complete ruin. Massive corruption scandals involving Bobby Baker, LBJ's closest aide, are being exposed by the press. JFK was planning to drop LBJ from the 1964 election ticket. Pushed into a corner and facing the threat of prison, the old fox LBJ decides to secretly forge an alliance with the military hawks and J. Edgar Hoover. They create a dark alliance right in the basement of Washington, waiting for the perfect moment to force JFK into a trap, compelling him to ignite a war to divert public opinion and salvage all their political lives. The year 1964 arrives like a firestorm. The presidential election now turns into a life-or-death chess match, where every mistake is paid for in blood. Without the assassination in Dallas, JFK doesn't have the halo of a martyred saint. Instead, he faces the naked reality of a deeply divided term. The civil rights movement sparks bloody riots in the South. The economy stagnates. But above all, his most dangerous political enemy emerges, Senator Barry Goldwater, the Republican candidate. Goldwater is no ordinary politician. He is the embodiment of extreme conservatism and peak hawkish ideology. Goldwater's famous quote, "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice," has become an anthem for warmongers. On national television broadcasts, Goldwater relentlessly attacks JFK with the heaviest rhetoric. He calls JFK's signing of the nuclear test ban treaty with the Soviet Union kneeling before the communists. He mocks the failure at the Bay of Pigs, the weakness at the Berlin Wall, and openly sneers that JFK is a coward leading America into a planned decline. Goldwater doesn't even hesitate to suggest using low-yield nuclear weapons to defoliate the jungles of Vietnam. Facing this storm of attacks, JFK, a politician always obsessed with his public image and masculinity, begins to lose control. Polls show his approval ratings plummeting. If he wants to be re-elected, JFK can no longer play the role of a peace envoy. He must prove to America that he is a tough, iron-willed president unafraid of bloodshed. Any intention of withdrawing troops from Vietnam, like the NSAM 263 memo, is instantly shredded. Instead, JFK turns to Walt Whitman Rostow, a hawkish national security advisor dubbed America's Rasputin. Rostow pours a bloody doctrine into the president's ear: the only way to win in Southeast Asia and smash the Republican criticism is through military escalation by air power. Rostow convinces JFK that carpet bombing North Vietnam will not only suffocate the enemy but also serve as a perfect display of strength ahead of the election. With his mind fueled by amphetamines and political panic, JFK signs the revised NSAM 273 memo. Not just a few thousand advisors, but hundreds of thousands of U.S. Marines are deployed to Da Nang, along with thousands of sky-blackening bombing sorties. The massive American war machine is officially activated, but this is only the opening shot for a far more horrifying tragedy on the other side of the hemisphere. While JFK is pouring all his resources into the Southeast Asian quagmire to save his election campaign, back in Washington, the Pentagon generals decide it's time to finish their ultimate objective, erasing Cuba and overthrowing Fidel Castro. They know that no matter how tough JFK acts in Vietnam, he is always hesitant to launch a direct war right next to America, fearing a repeat of the '62 crisis's ghost. To force this paranoid president into declaring war, General Curtis LeMay and the Joint Chiefs of Staff drag a top-secret plan out of the shadows, Operation Northwoods. Let's pause for a moment to absorb the absolute insanity of history. This is no internet conspiracy theory, these are real documents declassified by the US government. Operation Northwoods was a detailed plan crafted by America's military elite, proposing the use of CIA operatives to carry out bloody terrorist attacks against American citizens, and then fabricate evidence to frame Fidel Castro. This plan coldly suggested bombing bustling shopping districts in Miami, sinking fragile boats carrying Cuban refugees in international waters, and, most horrifyingly, orchestrating the shootdown of a civilian airliner filled with American college students. In 1962, JFK flat-out rejected this sick plan. But now it is 1964. The power structure has cracked. General LeMay, with the covert backing of political forces looking to take down JFK, decides to act behind the president's back. One August morning, a U.S. Navy destroyer patrolling near the Guantanamo Bay base suddenly erupts in a massive explosion. A pre-planted bomb tears through the hull, claiming the lives of over 100 young sailors. Instantly, the manipulated media machine explodes. Debris bearing Cuban military markings is, accidentally, found at the scene. Images of caskets draped in American flags dominate every front page. The American public screams for blood. Millions pour into the streets, demanding the president take revenge. JFK is pushed into the tightest corner of his political life. If he refuses to attack Cuba, he will be accused of treason, impeached, and undoubtedly crushed by Goldwater's faction in the upcoming election. Standing in the Oval Office, sweating profusely under the drug's influence, JFK tremblingly picks up the pen and signs the executive order to invade Cuba. Thousands of B-52 bombers roar into the sky, turning the Caribbean heavens a fiery red. But it doesn't stop there. The deadly butterfly effect reaches Moscow. In this timeline, JFK's survival and subsequent aggression cause rapid shifts in the Kremlin. Leader Nikita Khrushchev, a man who could reason with JFK, is overthrown sooner than expected. The hardline faction led by Leonid Brezhnev seizes power. Seeing the US bombing Cuba, Brezhnev declares this a direct act of war against the Soviet bloc. The red hotline telephone between Washington and Moscow is unplugged. There is no longer any diplomatic communication channel. The Soviet defense system shifts to red alert. Nuclear missile silos beneath the thick Siberian snow begin to open their covers. Suspicion and information blindness have pushed humanity to the very edge of extinction. The air in the Situation Room beneath the White House thickens, so suffocating that one can clearly hear the beating hearts of those present. Alarm lights flash relentlessly. Radar screens constantly sweep across the Northern Hemisphere. America in the 1960s possessed a top-secret nuclear war plan called SIOP-62, Single Integrated Operational Plan. It had no concept of limited war. Once the red button was pushed, thousands of hydrogen bombs would simultaneously rain down, wiping out the Soviet Union, China, and Eastern Europe in a single, comprehensive destructive strike. Hundreds of millions of people would evaporate in the blink of an eye. Upon receiving intelligence that the Soviets are fueling their intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, the military generals turn to look at JFK. Karl Kaysen, a cold-blooded strategist from the National Security Council, places a dark red file on the president's desk, the Kaysen Preemptive Plan. Based on the fact that the US at the time held overwhelming superiority in the number and accuracy of its nuclear missiles, Kaysen proposed a sudden, clean, preemptive strike. Mr. President, General LeMay emphasizes, his voice hardening with murderous intent, we have a 10-to-1 advantage. We must shoot first, wiping out all their launch sites before they can push the button. If we hesitate for even one more minute, Washington, New York, Los Angeles will be nothing but radioactive ash. You must choose, the lives of Americans or the lives of the communists. Right at the most brain-racking moment in human history, the primitive technology of the 60s makes a fatal error. The U.S. Ballistic Missile Early Warning System, MUES, stationed in Greenland suddenly shrieks deafeningly. The radar reports a cluster of dozens of massive objects hurtling from the Arctic with maximum speed straight toward North America. Soviet missiles have left their silos, an intelligence officer screams, his voice cracking. All eyes lock onto JFK. The truth? If they had more time to analyze it, they would realize it was just a deadly optical illusion. The radar had misidentified the light of the rising moon on the Norwegian horizon as the signal of ballistic missiles. But in this suffocating room, no one has the luxury of time. President Kennedy, tortured by bone-deep pain, his mind warped by massive doses of amphetamines and paranoia about a coup, can no longer maintain his sanity. He looks at the generals surrounding him, men he once hated who are now the only ones telling him what to do. He thinks of the election slipping from his grasp, thinks of Barry Goldwater, thinks of his brother Bobby executing a bloody purge outside. Pressured to the point of suffocation, having completely lost his capacity for critical thought, the young president squeezes his eyes shut. "Activate SIOP," JFK whispers, his dry voice drowning in the room's chaotic noise. The fateful encoded telegram is transmitted at the speed of light via radio stations to hundreds of Minuteman ICBM silos in the American Midwest, to the Polaris submarine fleet diving deep beneath the ocean, and to the B-52 bomber squadrons circling the Arctic sky. The dual keys are turned simultaneously. The fiery buttons are pressed. Thousands of streaks of fire tear through the sky, painting deadly arcs across the stratosphere, carrying a destructive force equivalent to millions of Hiroshima bombs. About 30 minutes later, as the actual air raid sirens wail in the skies above Moscow and New York, humanity officially ends its grand journey on Earth. World War III did not begin because of a noble ideal or brilliant strategic calculation, it erupted from the weakness, paranoia, and dirty political machinations behind the closed doors of a president who survived the arrow of death. History is sometimes written not by heroes, but by missed bullets. The tragic death of John F. Kennedy in Dallas on November 22, 1963, is remembered to this day as one of America's darkest tragedies. Yet, in a chilling paradox, his sacrifice was the final safety belt that kept the world from sliding into a catastrophe a million times worse. What do you think about this goosebump-inducing historical scenario? If he had lived, would JFK have had the strength to stand against the Pentagon, or would he ultimately just be a pawn crushed by the ruthless war machine? And if you were put in his position in 1964, would you choose to compromise to protect peace, or accept pushing the button to protect your power? Leave your comments below, the debate has just begun. And if you find that these declassified files are enough to turn everything you thought you knew upside down, hit like and subscribe to the channel so we can continue decoding the most terrifying secrets that history has deliberately buried. See you again in the world of forgotten truths.